Obviously, you should be able to see me in there. So I'm the red, orange, and yellow guy. So that means I'm the warmest thing inside the frame at that particular moment. Now, with a nice cool night like this, a human should be the warmest thing in the picture at all times. So what are we looking for in here? Blue and black are the colors that we're looking for. They're either going to start taking shape on their own or they're going to start moving on their own. So I also have this camera set up with a blue dot that bounces around the screen, showing us the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So when you're getting your video back, it's going to help guide your eye on where the cold anomalies might actually be. I normally look for 15 to 20 degree temperature differences, and I do keep track of the weather. It goes in part of your data set tomorrow morning. So with this particular guy, Jeff, this guy is super cool. So it's a lot of fun to watch. You've been staring at it the whole time. So you're going to actually hold it one-handed, so that way the camera's always on your left-hand side. Don't handle it by the camera. It will pop out of there because it is a phone attachment.
Huh.
Now you're recording.
How about that? But I haven't seen anything that's funky anyways.
It's okay. And usually these are caught on the next day or that kind of thing. So the things that I have caught on there, I actually capture about 4 or 5 like solid, legitimate things per year on that guy. And that's about the gist of it. I do have some other things that I can't explain, but if it's like 4 or 5 per year is about an average for that one. Like where it's like, there's no question that it was definitely supernatural.
Okay. Outside, inside I could see being easier to manage.
Yeah.
You know, but outside I would think that'd be tough. So if you're seeing something that's outside, that's got to be pretty significant.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I've had full apparitions come walking at us with nobody there.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're picking up on this?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see what we can get you.
Yeah, hopefully. Something.
All right, we'll work at it. Are you doing selfies, Sue?
No. But when I came over here in the corner, watch.
Now look at, you're getting readings.
I know.
All right. Miss Jean.
It's when I...
Was it when you used the camera itself?
Well, I was over here taking a picture of it. Watch it. Look at it.
Yeah.
Well, it's over here in this corner.
All right, she's chasing something already.
What's she chasing?
I don't know, it's her little milligauss, whatever the hell the thing's called, going on.
Yeah, it's good. What colors has she seen? Do you know?
It's gone up to orange. I don't know where it starts. It hasn't like pegged.
Yeah. Well, 15 is still good.
You can see right there.
Yep, that's at 15. I have the colors memorized. I'm doing this shit every night.
Oh,
You can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 is good, but it is super sensitive. So, and I have that
Now,
one.
wouldn't Brian's be picking up on that also?
If it does,
By
it's
rights?
usually in that. It's a little bit lower than what that one will do. Like I
Okay.
said, it's a little bit more sensitive. So if she's pegging at 15, he's probably going to get like an 11 to a 12 over there.
Okay.
So I've seen your colors, which is good. So yeah, did you get anything about that orange? That orange
Yes,
yellow?
at one point I got a red
Oh,
when
okay.
I was going, when I first walked over.
So You did have at least one maxed out. That's good. Try not to keep the device near the camera when you're doing that.
Oh, okay.
The batteries will make it go off. There we
Maybe
go.
that's what I
Yep.
was doing.
May have been
That's
where
why
the
I
spike was
asked
coming. Yeah. Yeah, a cell phone will make that thing dance
Picture,
around.
I can't be doing all.
Put it in your pocket at that time.
Oh.
I just went off.
But actually, the word list is starting to be a little productive. She's got a few things on there.
Well,
She had Muslim early.
Again, I told you, National Allies, it might be somebody on tomorrow night's tour. I see it all the time. And just for an example, it might actually say Jose and then Filipino, and then I have Jose who's Filipino on my next tour.
That's
It's the weird shit that happens
yeah.
to me.
Well, that's kind of what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's certain things that I just can't explain. I don't know where these predictions come from.
Do you keep like a website of stuff
Oh,
that you
yes.
have and
Yep.
that's accessible so people
Yes.
can come see shit?
Yep. I sure do. And I don't, like, you're actually, when I put the data on the website, it stays up there for a year. So you can access it anytime. You can go back and see anything. that you
Anybody
want
can
to.
access it?
Yep.
Access it?
Yep. It's wide open. I don't
Sure
hide
you
anything.
Got like a greatest hits.
I do have like certain things like on the Facebook page. It's just easier to manage it there.
Sure.
Of course, it keeps people coming back to me.
Right.
But it's like in the photos folder. But any EVPs, I make a video out of them that are disembodied. So things that I find like the radio stations are really common for me to find. But a disembodied voice, meaning it's not radio chatter, yeah, I definitely turn that into a video, and it's posted through social media. That keeps people coming back. Any massive pictures, any video from the thermals, any orbs that are moving, like yeah, all of the crazy stuff that I'm like, holy cow, this is undeniable.
Right.
Yeah, that's where it goes. But all the subtle
did you
clues,
see the red come up?
I did not. We were
did?
chatting. I'm sorry.
Well,
Well, I
that-
already wrote down. I believe you. You're 25. This is a good space for that.
So then when I see that red come up, I should be taking pictures all over
Yeah.
the place? Okay.
Just don't be taking pictures of people's license plates.
Right idea. We're missing Kathy.
Oh,
I don't
shit.
know what that means.
Ask the. She's right there. Isn't that her right there?
Oh, yes. Whoop.
Yeah.
She maxed out. Wanted to see what she's hearing on her spirit box over here.
She can't hear.
She can't hear anything.
She can't hear shit. Did you get any lotto numbers or anything?
I don't know what I'm supposed to get. What's the country?
Well, I think it's all recorded, so they'll just have to kind of download it, for lack of better terms.
J's, I got J, Z, A, F, or G. I'm tired.
All right, Big Al, what do you got?
I don't really know.
Yeah, a whole bunch of starters.
Are you hearing stuff?
Yeah,
You're hearing stuff? You don't have a thing in though, right? You're just hearing it right from that?
yeah. I heard Rock. He goes, oh, well, we have a radio station, radio, or 98 Rock, but I heard ouch, 25, I'm not afraid.
You heard I'm not afraid?
It really got loud over here.
Hey, do me a favor. Go over in that corner. That's where Sue's thing was going up.
Did you hear that? What did it say? C. S-E-E.
Sue had a lot of stuff in that corner. And I'll keep the thermal imager on you.
I was getting a lot of
What are you
I don't know what I'm doing. I just words just come up. I don't have to do anything. It's perfect.
oh, come on.
good weird?
Yeah, it is a good weird. Okay. So that's weird. Where you were getting all of your red and orange slice, you got nothing.
So
So,
did you. Yeah.
so here's the things I'm excited about, and I want you guys to kind of, I'm going to be pairing up some of the terms that you guys heard among yourselves, like that weren't together, like these things that you heard and then maybe Jessica heard to go on with it. The word heat was a big one, so I'm going to be talking about heat. That's by itself. I'm excited about 556 only because I don't know what it is. It could be a date. It could be something else that we heard a little bit further. So, yeah.
It's got a 5-0, but it didn't really answer the question. And orange.
I want you to also keep in mind the amount of devices that we're using out here tonight. You can ask a question, Jessica can give the answer, which is why I had you guys just stick to one set of questions because we never know where the answer is actually going to pop up. But the weird thing is that there's like weird pairs of things that are going on here. I'll point out that the word or city Austin was found on the word list, and you heard Texas. I don't know what that means. Does that mean that I'm going to have another Indiana Jones tomorrow? I don't know. It could be somebody from Austin, Texas. So the word devastated and baby together. Keep those two together in the back of your brains before I go through the list. And then we had the word injury that was heard by two different people, and also the word ouch. I don't know what that is, I'll be honest, but it is not a coincidence that two people heard the word injury and then the word ouch was heard on another device. The word taxi is interesting to me, and then you're dead. Is that what you heard specifically? Yeah. So again, very weird. I will also tell you that I don't tell, like, it's not really a story because it's so recent, but there is a death that occurred nearby that deals with the bike taxi place. I don't normally talk about that because it was so recent. It happened in the past 15, 20 years. Again, the family's still alive. I'm not disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. I don't make it a ghost story. But things do pop up around that specific death. It's very weird and uncanny because we were just nearby it. So let's kind of go through all of the answers. And these are going to make a whole lot more sense to you as I kind of go through them. The new pants pockets are not working out, by the way.
Need to be broken.
Well, I got other tactical pants where they're right here, and it's way more convenient. These just actually have fleece in them. I was expecting them to be much colder. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try out the new pants. Nope, not working out so great. The pockets suck. Gotta cut them off. All right, so whenever I break out the tablet, you guys don't need to huddle around. I'll kind of go around the room so you guys can see all of the different pictures. It's nice to see like the visuals that come along with this. Kind of that way you know who you're hunting down and that kind of thing. So the first thing I like to do is show you who you were trying to talk to. So this is Eliza Lucas Pinckney. I use her maiden name because it's Lucas. It would have been one of the names that Jane was looking for on her device. The first wife was Eliza Lamb Pinckney. So Lamb and Lucas would have been the names that hopefully that would have came through, and they have come through on other spirit boxes, but we've seen the correct spelling on Jane's device. This wife married Charles at the age of 22. Charles was 45. We did not get any of those numbers tonight. We had 43s and 50s and all kinds of mess. But again, it's definitely better than 12 and 25. So we're going to take the 2245. The mansion, we did hear the word heat. This is the only picture of the mansion that we have. This is exactly where you're standing right now. This is from the Great Fire of 1861. Again, this is fire damage. At times, when we have terms like heat, we will get the full date, 12/11/61. Again, very specific numbers.
I didn't hear 12 once, but it was really vague.
But you are also the same person that heard heat. So, again, could be all coming through. Do you have the recordable one? Yes? Yes, you do. So, sorry, I have my quick guide. Take a look at that. So every tour guide in town is going to tell you about a great fire that happened here because that's why it's such a haunted city, because of all the dozens of fires that we've had. This particular fire, you're standing on a tiny little green dot on the right-hand side of this map. The orange is obviously the fire. So this went... I'll take it. It's kind of weak, but I'll take it. So obviously they went from one side of the peninsula all the way to the other. So this was $5 to $9 million worth of damage in 1861. Don't ask me what that equates to now. Inflation changed again this morning. So, even though it's Saturday. So, but again, you can see like you're standing on that tiny little green dot. This was a giant fire. This is pretty big. The children, who had the children questions? That was you, right? Yes. So there were 4 children. You did hear the number 3.
Yes.
My question to you is, did you ask what the tragedy may have been?
I was thinking I maybe
for a taxi and I connected that to a carrier. I didn't know if he was that directly.
Well, I didn't know if you were asking Eliza directly.
No, I did not. I
Okay.
just had to check.
In the event that we are poking the bear, she will tell you that she had 3 children instead of 4. In other words, don't ask about the baby. We're going to get to that particular baby.
I heard baby over there.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it down. Again, he had devastated and baby. So that's a pair that I was kind of like, that's another one definitely relevant. Here's how this goes. We're going to go through the children very quickly. Charles, we already talked about, signer of the Constitution. Next one is Thomas. He fought in a Revolutionary War battle, captured by the British and shot in his left leg. When the British released him, he was left on a cane the rest of his days. We didn't get anything relevant to Thomas. I'm just giving you the clues that I look for when it does show up. So we will get like left leg, limp, anything relative to him having a cane. Any portrait of Thomas after that battle shows him from the right side to kind of hide his left leg, and the cane is always over his lap. So kind of keep that in mind. That's usually what I look for. The next child is one I told you, don't poke the bear, Baby George. A couple of things about Baby George. We did get the word June on your word list, and that was over by Big John's. Now, that's what I call bleed over. We're still relatively close to Big John's. We could have gotten Pinckney terms over there, and then we could have gotten Big John terms over here. But Baby George died in June of 1747. Baby George, he obviously didn't make it very long. We don't know exactly how old he was, but my guess is that he was at least a few weeks old because he wouldn't have been named unless he was christened. So they're not going to do that, after just a few days. So, weird thing about him also is he doesn't have a headstone or a grave. It is a possibility that they mummified this child and kept him here in the home waiting for his mother to pass away so he could be buried with her. You can't prove any of that because you can't Google mummied baby and not expect a phone call from some government office. So, again, it's... Yeah.
Because but was the mother sick after giving birth to him?
No.
You don't know.
She wasn't. She actually lived for quite a bit.
She was waiting for her to die.
And that was because certain religions, that's just the way they did things. There's another story we're going to tell later on. There's no record of the baby that I'm going to tell you about later on. No birth record, no death record, no burial record. So, same thing with George. Like, his death certificate just has the same month and year of when he died in the birth and death column. That's why we don't know how old he was. So the Pinckney family was a pretty respected, prominent family because most of them were politicians. So, again, was one of those practices that, again, it's kind of taboo. Can't really find a lot of information about it, but you can kind of skim some religious websites and find where that was a common practice in colonial times. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I never heard of it either. Believe it or not, one of my guests told me about it, and I researched it, and I did find a little bit of information on it. That's why I say it's a possibility just based on the information we have of him not having a grave or a headstone. What else would they have done with him?
Maybe he wasn't baptized, so he had to wait so he could be buried in sacred ground with his mother.
It's a possibility. Again, it's all up for speculation. I mean, I don't have all the answers, so unfortunately, but certain things I can prove. That when I can't prove something directly, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to be like, yeah, this is solid truth. I can't prove that that's exactly what happened with Baby George, but it is a possibility. It's just kind of a creepy thought. You're on a ghost tour.
Yeah.
So, it's going to get even more weird, by the way, when we talk about Eliza's death, because you asked if she was sick after childbirth, and she wasn't. We're going to talk about Eliza's death in a moment, because there was one more child. Her name was Harriet. She married Daniel Ory. Myrtle Beach is Ory County. That kind of gives you an idea of where she lived. So that's about 2.5 hours north for us. Wouldn't have been 2.5 hours north for Eliza, because she didn't have a car. Lots of letter writing in between the two of them. When Harriet does show up here, quill, ink, paper, published, anything relative to letter writing is usually what we get out of Harriet. It's very seldom, but it does occur on a rare occasion that we'll get those kind of terms if the name Harriet shows up. Eliza's death. Those were your questions, correct? She was 70 years old when she passed away, 1793. So she did live a long time, from 47 to 93 after George's death, just to point that out. Like, that's a long range. She was going to Philadelphia, getting treatments for whatever they thought she had. It turned out to be breast cancer. We didn't know what breast cancer was completely in 1793. We're going based off of her medical records today. So 9 out of 10 credible sites would say it was indeed breast cancer. She died in Philadelphia. She's buried in Philadelphia. So that should raise two questions in your brain. First one being Baby George. If my theory's true, they would have transported that baby from here all the way to Philadelphia to be buried with his mother. Kind of a creepy thought, because it would have been by horse and carriage. So it's a long trek to be carrying a mummied baby around. The second thing is, if Eliza's in Philadelphia, what the hell are we doing here? I don't actually take you to cemeteries because there's not a whole lot of activity going on in cemeteries because none of you are going to hang out near your gravestone when you're gone. You're going to go to your mansions 400 miles away, which is exactly why we're at the spaces that we go to. So, anybody want to take a guess at who the president was that was the pallbearer at Eliza's funeral? Now that you guys know the year, 1793? No history buffs? Going once?
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
George Washington.
It was George Washington.
I was going to say that.
So,
Well, the name, his name was
actually, it's named after Eliza's father.
Well,
And if you remember Eliza's maiden name, which was Lucas, that would make her father George Lucas. So, most teenagers think that her father invented Star Wars when I bring that up. So, I don't know. I stopped telling that joke because they didn't all get it. So I was like, all right, good deal. But yeah, there's 3 different Georges we're dealing with at that point. So we have the father, her son, and then obviously President George. Now, at his request, he wanted to pay homage to Eliza because of the indigo that helped get the country started. It wasn't just a big deal for Charleston, it was a big deal for the country. So here's a good thing of why you kind of guessed and took a deductive reasoning portion of it, and, you know, now that you knew the year. I kind of played one little trick on you. When we got here, I told you all I'm not going to give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse. I do that on purpose, and I put George Washington subliminally in the back of all of your brains, waiting to see who's going to give it back to me as I'm bouncing around with all of you, and none of you did, and we kind of went through deductive reasoning with Jean. She's like, 1793 must have been Washington, and that's a good thing. The rest of you passed with a fail, so good job. That's kind of how that works. I like to know who I'm working with. The damn teenagers, when I give them a spirit box, they just repeat everything I'm saying. I just heard Eliza. No, you didn't. The name Eliza is not common on the radio. So, that's kind of how this goes. The next space we're going to is, it works a little bit differently. This is what we call an intelligent ghost, where we ask questions and we get answers. The next space is it's a residual. So it basically works on a loop. It's very interesting. It's a paranormal theory that we're dealing with in that alley, but here's how this is actually going to go. Both people filming, you're not going to be filming until we get into the alley. So go ahead and stop both of your videos at this point. We're going to be walking up. Josh.
Jefferson.
Jefferson. Any other names that you guys heard?
Well, we heard a word that I don't know if we should say, but four.
No, that actually makes sense here. I will say last night on the word list we had the word top and then list. Topless. So, and it was consecutive. It wasn't like there was anything in between. So yeah, that actually makes complete sense in this location.
And we both heard it at the same time.
Nice. Jessica, did you get anything out of yours?
Yes, and I heard, it's not a name, I just heard milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard, but that's the only thing I heard.
That's a song.
Yeah.
But still,
No names.
Again, drop it like it's hot, has the word hot in it, which could mean a fire.
Yeah.
Milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard, could mean a whore. Same principle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What a fun group you all are. Jean, you got anything that came up on your word list that stuck out?
No.
You want to take a look at it?
To me.
I'll take a look, because again, I haven't told you guys what goes on here yet. Uncle Rabbit. I don't know what that means.
Uncle.
Yeah, you got Uncle and Rabbit right next to
Oh.
each other. I don't know how Uncle Rabbit is. I actually like the word record. That actually makes sense in this location. So, welcome to Lodge Alley. When we cross the last crosswalk coming down, sorry for the long trek, that's the longest trek we'll take in between spaces, by the way. But that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. So it ran up Charlestown Wall. Like this was a walled city. So it ran up Cumberland and was across the street of East Bay Street, or what side that we were on. So you're standing on one of the first streets we ever had.
Is it Cumberland?
It did.
Yes. Okay.
So I remember that now. Once I said it,
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta write that one down. Now, Cumberland Street wasn't Cumberland Street. It was the wall. Like that's where it stood. So, but this being the first street, one of the first streets we ever had, I had the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived down here. And you guys normally give me the same 2 names over and over and over again. They are not George and Josh. They are Benjamin and John. Now the weird thing is that there were 4 different Johns that lived here in a 60-year time span. John likes to give us his last name, and his mother was evil, and she named him John Johnson. So we will get John, Johnson, and Benjamin all in the same evening about every 6 to 7 weeks. It's on a loop, on a record loop. So it's recording everything. I'll explain in just a moment. But when I say I have the list of all the residents, it's not a long list. Only 2 to 5 people live down here at a particular time. These giant buildings weren't here. Little tiny shotgun houses. So when we get Benjamin and John, the only thing I know about them is that they lived here at the same time in 1801. That's 2 out of 5 people. Every once in a while, we'll get a third name. That name is Jane. That's honestly not a common name that we hear all the time, especially on radio stations or whatnot. So that's a third person that lived here in 1801. Excuse us. How are you? Good. So 3 out of 5 people every 6 to 7 weeks. Not too shabby. Here's why it's happening. The bricks you're standing on that are very crooked and where we can actually get hurt on, yeah, these things have been here since 1739 that we know of. We don't even know the exact date of how long they've been laid. So, they're made out of granite. They're called Belgian blocks. They say that any type of material that's made straight from the earth, like granite, and has been in the same place for a long period of time, can hang on to the memories of the things that occurred here. In other words, it's recording it for us. We have the word record on the word list. So it's kind of a vague reference, but it does work in this situation. So basically, it's on a loop. Every 6 to 7 weeks, I wasn't necessarily expecting you guys to hear Benjamin and John tonight, but I never know. The other thing about granite is it's not supposed to hold an electrical charge. I want you to literally set your device on any brick you want to, and kind of see if you get any numbers above that 2.5. I would expect up to 1.1 because that's natural from the earth. It says 0.8. Again, we're on week 3 of that loop. So again, I don't really expect a whole lot out of it. Even if I pick it up, we're probably not going to get anything out of it. But it has gone all the way up to 15, which is a pretty high spike for this location. I will explain what it's measuring a little bit more in depth real quick, since I didn't do it back at the Pinckney Mansion site. We did get up to a 34, was that right? Yeah, so in that space, there's no electricity at all. There's no running wires or anything like that. If you were to put Brian's device behind your TV set, where there's a bunch of wires and it's plugged in and whatnot, it's going to read about 40 to 60, depending on how many things you have plugged in. That's a pretty decent spike, but it's still a safe amount. If you're standing next to your microwave while it's running with this device, it's going to say about 150 to 170 milligauss. So the highest I've ever seen that device go has been inside the Pinckney Mansion site where we just left. It went all the way to 214. It's almost as bad as putting your head inside the running microwave. We left. I have epilepsy. I don't play with electricity in the air when it gets that high. Normally triple digits, we leave the space. So again, I have seen it go that high in other spaces outside of the tour when I'm doing my own investigations, but 214 is the highest spike I've ever seen. So that's how I know, like, it can get pretty dangerous. That's why we use that. So it's pretty much a safety measure at this point. But with yours going up to 25, like that's its spike. Like that red, it only goes to 25. So for us to get a 15 out of this location on a random brick and it being consistent throughout the area, not coming from the buildings, take it for what it's worth. Again, I can't fully explain it, but it's one of those pieces that the paranormal field is still trying to explain the stone tape theory. And it has been going on for at least 100, 150 years that we've been studying this and trying to get it all straight. So hopefully with the amount of data that I put out there, we'll be able to prove it completely. The other weird thing about this alley is why I like to bring you guys down here is from its name, Lodge Alley. It comes from the Freemasons having a Masonic lodge down here before people lived here. We will get terms relative to the Freemasons as we're kind of standing in here, and a lot of times with the red spirit boxes with the earbuds in them, we will hear the term Illuminati as we're entering the alley. The funny thing about the word Illuminati is it's the radio stations. Who the hell's talking about the Illuminati on the radio? Like, that's the first question. The second question is, why are we only hearing it while we're here and no other space that I go around Charleston? So, again, it's one of those things where you have to question it, but I have verified that the word Illuminati was heard on a Spirit Box recording 6 times last year, 3 times this year so far. Other terms have come up, like founding fathers, symbols, masonry, like a lot of weird terms will show up, and those are not part of the loop that I found. So that 6 to 7 week loop that I talked about earlier, it's not part of that. They just show up randomly. It's very odd. Again, I don't want to go into conspiracy theories of the Illuminati with everybody because we're ghost hunting, but it is just a weird anomaly that will show up from time to time. Did we hear anything or see anything before we move on to the next space? Again, this is not a space where we spend a lot of time, but we do capture things here while we're kind of stirring things up by talking about it.
Before we turned in the alley, I think I told you I heard forevermore. I don't know. But
I'll write it down, and also the Cumberland piece, because that's significant also. Now, the next place we're going to is another alley. However, I can't take you all the way through it like this one. I've been kicked out of the other end. It is because it's residential. Again, when I first started doing this, I didn't know all my full boundaries just yet, and I'm the guy who got caught because I have all the blinky lights and noisemakers with all the you guys are holding. I'll explain the funny story once we get in there because it is relevant to the next space we go to after that. But we're going to stick to one side of the alley, and we're going to start seeing those other larger groups at that point, and we're just going to stay out of their way, and we do our thing on one end, they do theirs on another. So we're into the more touristy type area. We're hitting the French Quarter. So, any other questions about the stone tape theory? Because it is a weird thing to talk about without really fully knowing a whole lot about it on your end. All right, let's go talk about some dueling ghosts up in the next one. Let's see if we can find a...
Trying to hear things that aren't there. Trying not to.
Henry keeps poking his head in my tour. Like, I don't normally talk about him unless he's brought up. He's a pinkman. And he keeps, like, I think he knows, like, I'm researching him to see if I can add him onto the tour, like, that kind of thing, and figure out what's on. But he keeps popping up, but he's not giving me enough other than his name and a very small tidbit about his life. I want detail. I want the pink detail.
Don't go back to that. Details.
Alright, anything else crazy showing up with the spirit box or anything in here? Al, how's that Ouija board going for you, right? Bunch of nothing? Okay.
So CBS
Any other words showing up on your word list there?
Well, I've got province. I had punish.
That's okay. Let's let this group pass through. They look pretty sweet. You're fine.
You're doing good.
You know what's funny is nobody here is dressed up, so it kind of tells you the difference of the crowds that we have. So,
Hey, Nick,
yes.
I just want to, I don't know if you can make a note of this.
That's your finger.
No. But I'm saying that this is all here. But over here, what's that temperature reading?
68, 69.
Is it 68, 69?
Yep.
Okay. That makes more sense.
What'd you think you were getting?
I thought it was 80s. Like,
Oh.
literally, it shouldn't be that warm, obviously.
No, definitely not. Yeah, that's 60s.
Okay.
But you're recording.
I
So
gotta get my glasses.
it's okay. I watch the classes in the morning on the big screen. So, this is Philadelphia Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. It was named Philadelphia Alley after dueling became illegal and stupid, and we named it after one of the cities that helped us financially for one of our fires that we had that I talked about earlier. So that's why it's called Philadelphia Alley now, but it's known as Duelers Alley. Here's how this story goes. Every tour comes down here. Again, you've already seen a handful, and we all tell the same story. However, I give you a little bit different detail because we're ghost hunting. It's not a campfire story with marshmallows. We lost the Indiana? Oh, he's going back. Yeah, next. Okay, good deal. So, here's how the story goes. A doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. His name shows up often. He moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with all of this cash. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money, so he tells Amanda to get rid of the doctor. So Dr. Ladd moves to Charleston to prove that he's not after Amanda's money. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his new life in Charleston. Somebody was walking by and seeing what was about to happen. He knew the coachman and knew that the coachman was going to try to kill this newcomer. His name was Ralph Isaacs. I stop on Ralph because Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. Before I even had the Ouija board, the letters R.I. were showing up on different spirit boxes. This is the reason why I bought the Ouija board, so we can get the direct initials. So again, it's been showing up on other things, but I wanted to be a little bit more direct. Had it once in this location since I bought it so far, which has been good. So, back to Ralph. Ralph tells the doctor, you don't want to go in here, man. I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you and take all your money. So I got some friends at 59 Church Street. He then stay there, rent a room from my friends, and you'll be safe. Dr. Ladd takes him up on the offer, and the two of them become friends. It was a legitimate cause. Like, you're looking like, yeah, it's a little sketchy.
I don't buy it.
1780s. So he's renting this room at 59 Church Street. Him and Ralph are friends. The doctor's practice starts to take off. He started a medical practice here. Amanda gets word that he's making his own money and he's proving his point. She's going to be moving down soon, which makes the doctor very happy. He's a whistling guy, so they named him the Whistling Doctor. You can actually Google the Whistling Doctor and get this story. Like, that's what it is. I will also point out that every haunted city you will ever visit has a cliche whistling ghost. So I'm going to go through the evidence of this location here in just a moment. Dr. Ladd and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. He gets better seats. That's just the way the hierarchy of Charleston worked. So they go see Richard III one night, and they're arguing over the new actress on the way home. Dr. Ladd thought the new actress was fantastic. Ralph, not so much. Turns into a heated argument when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée back home in Rhode Island. This gets very ugly. They go their separate ways, but I told you Ralph has friends here. He goes to his friends at the newspaper. He puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a disgrace to society, kind of mentality. Kind of a jerk move, if you really think about it. Dr. Ladd, it goes back and forth a little bit between the paper bit. I won't get into that, but Dr. Ladd eventually rebuttals with, let's just go to Joel Valley. Let's settle this. Somebody's going to die. So they came down, took their 10 paces, turned, and the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. Which is often what happened at a duel, by the way. He just had the courage and bravery to show up to the fight. Ralph turned around, and he puts his one shot in the kneecap on the doctor. Dr. Ladd drops to the ground. His friends pick him up and carry him home to 59 Church Street, where it is said that he died either 4 days later or 10 days later. It was 4 days later. Yesterday would have been that date. So, because he died on, actually today would have been that date, if I think about it, because he died November 2nd. So, very interesting piece. Now, the campfire part of this story is they say, as you walk through this alley, you can hear the whistles from the doctor. I used to take my groups all the way through. We are using a voice recorder right now. It's another reason why we use earbuds with the other spirit boxes, so we're not interrupting. But since we've been coming into this portion of the alley, I used to tell the story just outside of it, because again, I got kicked out of here. I'm going to get into that in a moment. We would actually get songs with just the whistling part of the song, or the word whistle itself. Like, it's not like I'm looking for these things, guys. They just happen. So at the same token, it's always quiet down here. Even without the tour down here, you can kind of get a gist of how quiet and peaceful it is. It's like this on a busy Saturday afternoon. I love this place. It's one of my most favorite places in Charleston. It's also very picturesque. The lighting down here is beautiful day or night. So, they also say you can hear gunshots. I have no evidence of gunshots. If you're going to try to get the whistles later on and use the voice recorders from your phones later on, and you're walking through the alley, just keep in mind, every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street is going to throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night. So we end over there, but my car garage is over this way. So I have to pass the alley every single night, and I always throw a whistle. If my daughter's on the tour, we race to see who's going to throw the whistle first. It's just the game we play. So here's how I got booted out of here. Here's the fun part of the story. Now it's going to get really fun, right? So this alley didn't come all the way through. It kind of was blocked off because this is where they kept the livestock for the city of Charleston. It's used to be called Cow Alley, or cow and livestock. Now shown up here in the past, by the way. So that means the bricks on that side are older. I always point out those bricks because those bricks are sun-dried from slave trade. One full handprint from a slave child in one of those bricks, and there's fingerprint swipes in others. And I'd always point them out because I'm sure you guys picked up on I'm all about the history, and we all need to see it to show how far we've come from slavery. I don't care about the diversity in my group. It's a matter of we all need to see it. So, my group, however, always likes, because you're holding equipment, you guys want to get something out of that brick. So, that kid is not staring at that brick in the afterlife. I treat it the same way I do a grave. He's not there. However, November 26th of 2020, yes, let's go way back. So, my entire group of 10 decided they're going to huddle around one brick to get a reading out of it, or hear something from a spirit box. And I'm trying to scurry them along because it's outside the dining room window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. And that gentleman was not too happy with me. My daughter thought it was funny because he'd come out yelling and Dad's getting yelled at. So we moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I did not have a tour because you all now know that I worked in retail management for over 20 years and I'm never working another Thanksgiving in my life ever again. Many of those years were with Walmart. Now you completely understand why I'm never working another Thanksgiving ever again. The next day was November 28th. Yes, the dates are relevant. I'm getting to it. November 28th, I was asked to either go down halfway, which is what we're allowed to do, because that's the cutoff part, or to reroute my group. I decided, yeah, we're going to part the seas for this group coming through. Oh, you're good. They'll find their way. Excuse us. How are you? Good. How are you? Good. Any more costumes coming through? If there's a ghost, I want it on film. Let's get social media. So, I decided it wasn't fair for my groups of 10 to try to investigate around 20 to 60 people. So I decided I'm going to reroute my group and tell my team we're going to wing it, because I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person. The next story is about pirates. So they all got excited, but I'm like, I don't know a whole lot about pirates. We're going to discuss what I know, and then we're going to see what happens. We're going to wing it. So before we leave, somebody hears the name Anne on a spirit box. I didn't tell them that we were going to be investigating the famous female pirate Anne Bonny. So I went, oh shit, something might actually be going on tonight. I've been in that location dozens of times and had nothing come through. We get up there, I told what little bit I did know about pirates, and somebody else hears the name or the number 300. So I'm like, all right, I don't know what that means. I'm going to research it more. We were there on November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We started going to that tour on the exact 300-year anniversary of her pirate trial. Now, I will tell you that location, it is a weird story, because you guys better be glad I have a master's degree in creative writing, because trying to put together a factual story based on pirate lore is really, really difficult. Everything we're going to be discussing came from more than 2 resources. It is also a hit or miss location. We had some decent first off clues in the Pinckney Mansion site. We had some weird things popping up so far. Hopefully we get some things out of it tonight. Again, we're either going to have a lot or nothing. It's just one of those spaces, and it'll make more sense once we get up there. Any other questions about dueling or this location? We don't spread out, because obviously it's a very popular area, but I do make
20 when we got here.
20.
I told him it's 20, just so somebody else knows. So I don't know. I didn't hear the 17 part.
It was 1786 when Dr. Ladd died. The funny thing is we often get his birthday in this location. This is also a bleed-over location, so we'll get clues from this story over at the next location as well, because we're going to be relatively close. So, anything come up out of yours? You guys been listening?
Nothing in particular.
I know it's hard to focus on that and me at the same time, because I talk really fast. Any words, Gene, before we move on?
Not that mean anything to me. Stream right now.
Yeah, I got nothing on stream. All right, let's go learn about some crazy pirates. Let's do this.
I'll show you. I may have just heard Ann, but I was just sticking it in my ear, so I'm not sure.
Getting back to the horror in the alley. I forgot to explain
Yes,
that one.
here we go.
Oh, I've been waiting for it.
No, he's great.
Okay.
He's a regular.
But they do follow spirit. Don't they say?
They do.
That cats follow spirit.
There's a lot of cats in this location. I'll explain the cats in a minute. Let's get to the horror in the alley, because that's fun. So there's, on that list of residents from Lodge Alley, where you guys heard horror and then there was something else going on there. Milkshakes to the yard. So their occupation is also listed right next to their name. It's not like a census list where it tells me all the details of that specific person. It just has their name, their address, and their occupation. A lot of the women that lived there were seamstresses. So when I had Topless show up on your device last night, I'm like, no shit. And then you guys get horror, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. So, because I'm sure they tried to attract clients by being topless. So that probably would have been a thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So did you guys notice, like, there's a bunch of tours around this location? Yeah. I let them have that corner. I'm going to tell you the story of it really fast, just before we get into the piracy bit. But everybody likes to know, why aren't we over there? It's their one show and tell. I let them have it. Your show and tell is in your hands. You know, this is why you guys came to see me, not to go look at a picture. But I'm still going to show it to you. So here's how it goes. There's 2 different sides to the cemetery. On the other side of the street is, if you're from Charleston, like as a native, and you belong to the church, you can be buried next to the church. Otherwise, you belong to the church and you're not from here, like me, because I'm a transplant, you get buried on this side. Your 7th Vice President, John Calhoun, is buried behind me because he's not from here. He just lived here a really long time. The funny thing about that particular piece is that they shuffled his ass back and forth trying to figure out where the hell he was supposed to go. So they didn't know he wasn't from here. Eventually they figured it out and moved his sarcophagus on this side. This side of the cemetery is usually open during the daytime, so you can go visit it because there is a vice president buried there. So they're all on that side because there's a sign right inside the gate that says, "There's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost." And that's because they don't want jerks like us over there trying to recreate what happened. Here's what happened. 1888, a young lady passed away 6 days after her stillborn child. You heard the number 6. So that means we probably have something else going on with that. 1987, 99 years later, a photographer's taking pictures of all of the beautiful cemeteries here. He's putting a book together, and he goes back to his dark room, and he's developing photographs, and he captures a full apparition in one of his photographs. It's 1987, so he doesn't have the technology that we have to try to figure out what the hell's going on with it. So he sends it to Kodak. I don't think I have to explain what Kodak is to this group. This is really nice, by the way. Most teenagers, and I rag on the teenagers, they think it's a bear. So put that in the back of your brains. But anyway, Kodak doesn't know what to do with the picture other than authenticate it based on the camera that he said it came from and that it has not been altered. Here's the thing about the photograph. I am going to show it to you, but it does have a curse attached to it. Curse to females, directly. Females that handle it, even in a digital format like my tablet or your cell phone, they're said to get the same symptoms we talked about at the beginning. The headache, the nausea, the dizziness. Pregnant females are said to not have a good pregnancy based on the gist of the story. I'm not going to be the guy where somebody had a great honeymoon and 9 months later I cursed your family. In other words, don't touch my damn tablet when I come around the corner. I will zoom in so you can see the ghost. So I'm going to go around 2 by 2 because again, it's one of those, you kind of need to see it a little bit more up close. So that way you guys know exactly. They're making it this big elaborate drama over there. I will tell you just based on my research skills that I've been trying to find out more about like where Sue Howard Hardy lived, which by the way, her initials, who wants to tell me what Sue Howard Hardy's initials are? It's cheesy, it's campy, but we do get it a lot. Exactly. So we get it all the time.
What was it?
Yeah.
The George
Calm
Washington
down.
scholar. Can't hear. Yeah.
She thought she had feedback. So. All right, let me find a photograph here. Wow, you guys
Excuse me, I've got in a row.
tolerance, yeah.
What?
No, here's the good thing. So normally I have a heckler among you. So again, there's usually somebody in the background who was dragged here by a husband or
That's
whoever.
Al.
But you know what? Al's been laughing. I've been seeing him. He's a silent laugher, but I can see teeth. Like, we're good. So that's the whole point. You're here to have fun. Here's the ghost. So this is the full picture he took. Your apparition is a woman praying over her own grave with the baby basket right next to her. The ironic thing, because there is a baby basket in here, the word basket showed up in this location twice. Last night, alone. So, full picture. Apparition right here. See, you're looking at her back, baby basket. This is probably another instance where we talked about where the baby's buried with mom, but I cannot find any record of the baby. I don't even know the gender of the child. So your apparition is right here. You're looking at her back. She's praying over her own grave, and the basket is to her right. Full picture.
Church, born again.
Yeah.
And there's your apparition. And the baby basket's right next to her. So that's why they're all over there. This is their big finale. So that was part of what we're doing.
As I was looking at that, I heard born again. There's church.
Yeah. Not really church. But we do get a lot of religious terms over here. So you guys are going to hear like father and pastor and Bible, that kind of thing.
What do you
So
got?
I will
What do
write
you
it down. It is one of those
On the
religious
list.
terms that I look at it that way, but I don't know that I could tie it to the Sue Howard Hardy story. I'll be honest. It's just one of those pieces where we're near a church. You're going to hear religious terms. It's not a coincidence. All right, so let's get into piracy. That's why we're here. This is rated R, everybody. Yeah, no joke there. Shh. Okay, I'll shut up. Got it. Note taken. Write that one down. Shut up when talking. So, that was a joke. It's like, shut your mouth when you're talking to me kind of thing. Yeah, one of those pieces. We're going to be discussing that little tiny building over there with the crosses on it. I want to point out that those are not crosses. Those are earthquake bolts. If you're not familiar with earthquake bolts, they're basically turnbuckles. If we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886 that I talked about earlier, which we have not, by the way, you can turn the turnbuckles, and it's supposed to tighten the building up so it doesn't incur any further damage. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So the reason I bring these ones up specifically is because it's the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713, which is exactly why we're here. Which, by the way, that Charlestown wall that we talked about earlier was right there, right where that parking garage is. So it actually went up past the powder magazine, and it put the powder magazine into the corners on purpose, so in case it got attacked by a ship 3 blocks away, it's going to have a hard time making it this far. But the walls are 32 inches thick. If that cannonball does make it this far, it's going to have a hard time getting through the 32-inch thick wall. Let's pretend that it does. There's sand in the roof underneath those shingles, and it was put there during its construction to be, if it did get attacked and blows up the gunpowder inside, the sand will go up because the walls are too thick to go out, and then it'll fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. It's a great idea too, but that shit don't work either. We had another powder magazine, it did get hit, the sand went up, the building burned to the ground. So the sand is still there because they had to do some repairs to that building before they turned it into a museum. So we know that the sand is still intact because it's not hot enough here and it's not being compressed to be turned into glass. So kind of a cool thought, right? The building just fascinates me. The architecture of it is just beautiful on the inside. So if you ever need to get out of our heat or cold, it's a great $5 to go spend 30 minutes. So I'm not an advocate for the building, but it's one of my, another favorite place to be inside. So Philadelphia Alley would be outside, this would be inside. Back to why we're here. We're here because this building would be familiar to Anne Bonny. We don't have many buildings this old. That's why it's a hit or miss. She might be at another space that she recognizes. So it's like using a toy to attract a child ghost. It's the same type of principle. Follow me, there's a lot of twists in this story. I will slow down on the twists so that we can all grasp them. The building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No, not at all. I'll answer for you. So right in the middle of its construction, 1708, a young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. She's with her father and his mistress. That mistress turns out to be Anne's mother. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. The three of them are running away from her father's angry wife. How mad was she that she got to get on a boat and leave Ireland? So I'm just pointing that out, ladies. You can be scoring waves all you want. So, with that said, they land in Georgetown. That's just north of here, between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad bought a plantation. Mom died pretty quickly. Don't know from what exactly. Now, that means he has to send young Anne down here to be able to sell anything from the plantation to help keep things afloat. Young Anne back home in Ireland was kind of a badass. They say she actually killed one of her servants when she was like 7, 8, 9 years old. Remember, this is pirate lore. Every story has a different number. With a knife to the belly. So just kind of put the mentality of this young lady in the back of your brains as we go through her history. The building's done in 1713. Pirates are coming through town in 1715. Anne is pretty stoked. She's going to fall in love because she wants her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world, and she's going to earn it. So, first guy she falls in love with, James Bonny. You already see where this one's going, by the way. But I will also point out that I said first guy she falls in love with. There's a handful. We're going to go through them. The word horror will probably also work in this location. We're going to see how that goes. But James Bonny is a filthy pirate. Dad does not approve because he's a filthy pirate. They run away to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormack is now Anne Bonny, the most famous female pirate that we had. This guy is not Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for, because every young lady wanted a Captain Jack Sparrow, correct? So, this guy is a privateer for the British. He's a spy and a coward in her eyes. So a few years later, she falls in love again. This guy's name is John Rackham, but he went by Calico Jack. Calico Jack is literally the person that they based your Captain Jack Sparrow character off of for your Disney movies. So, this is literally the Captain Jack Sparrow that she hoped for. He has his own ship. Anne wants to be part of it. You can't put a girl on a pirate ship. Does anybody know why?
Women are bad luck.
They are bad luck. Exactly. Most people get a little dirtier with that, so thank you for keeping it family friendly. Now, he makes a deal with her. If you dress like my crew and look like my crew, you could be part of the crew. So she's got to hide her gender in a nutshell. But she's going to be a female in his quarters. He's the captain. That's how that's going to go. Now, she's okay with cross-dressing as a guy to be part of the crew because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to hide her away from his wife. She was a boy apprentice in his attorney office, so that way he can see his daughter. So she's okay with it. But let's put two and two together. Being a female in Jack's quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a female. So, Jack takes her over to Cuba. Have the baby over here before you start the show, and we'll figure it out later. After you have the baby, you can come back to the ship. She goes and has the baby, but comes back with no baby. We have no idea what happened to the child. The amount of research that I find can tell me what happened to that first child. So, she comes back, but she's dressed like a female. This makes Jack pretty angry. And while she was away giving birth to his baby, he captured another pirate crew and they're down below deck. She's going to go flirting just because she wants to make Jack even more mad, because he's already mad about her being dressed like a girl. We're on guy number 3, in case you guys lost track. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured. So now we have 2 females, dressed like males, trying to be pirates on the same ship. This young lady's name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. Her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers. We're not going to really know anything for certain on that one. But the British find out where they are. They send a fleet of ships to come take down one pirate ship, and the rumor has it is that Anne and Mary were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1 bullet flintlocks. Probably because they didn't know how to use the cannon jets. They haven't been pirates for very long. So obviously 2 ladies are not going to take on a fleet of ships. They get arrested. And as they're being arrested, she looks at her captain, her beau, Calico Jack, and she says, "I'm sorry to see you here, but you should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." The word dog comes through a lot with your spirit boxes, by the way. Very famous quote by Anne Bonny. The judge, his name is Nick as well. So when you guys hear my name, it's not me, it's usually relative to him. He wants to see the 2 men that fought back so violently on their own after he's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunken pirates that wouldn't fight. So they're dead and gone 2 days before. Anne and Mary go in front. They reveal their gender. He doesn't give a shit that they're female. He's still going to hang them because they're pirates. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they said, because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So they played their card, and the hanging gets delayed. He sends them both back to jail. Dad is still here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money, because remember, he was an attorney. And he bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4, because we're going to count Mary Reed. We don't really know. She has 4 kids and dies at the age of 84. Yes, very abrupt ending. We don't really know much about her after her pirate career. It's too much rumorous for me to really go into it. Some say she stayed here, some say she went to Virginia, some say she changed her name completely, others say that she kept part of her name. Like, it's a whole mess. Mary Reed, she died a year later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Most books and articles will tell you that it was fever. I say bullshit. I think it's like really scurvious and nasty and gross. You guys use your imagination. It's pirates, romanticize it for yourselves. So, only 2 things I left out of that story that you guys can get started with your spirit box. I'm not going to give you a whole plethora of questions. In this space, you can ask whatever you guys want to. Again, you guys know what you're doing by now. You've been using my gear for I don't even know how long, because I don't keep track of time with you. So, I left out the names of the parents. That's the father and the mistress. So again, you can ask what those names are. You can also ask the name of Calico Jack's ship. I left that out on purpose. That's an interesting one as well. So Brian, with yours, it's not about the numbers in this location. So the closer you get to those bushes up there, you're going to get a reading because of the parking meters, 2 electrical poles in the corners. Don't get excited. Okay. It's about the colors. Ask Anne Bonny what her hair color is. So we're actually using 2 K2 meters tonight, so you can do the same thing with yours. And hopefully we get an answer. So that would be your little color device. You can ask what that is. For those of you with cameras that want to check out the front of the powder magazine, you can do that. You have to exit the lot and go in front of the bushes to the left. Just don't interrupt the other tours. It's the only thing that I ask. So again, Al, yours is always kind of a free-for-all because we're still learning about that device. So I kind of picked up on the fact that you were kind of dragged here, and I was like, oh, let's throw him the new gear. Let's see what that does. So any other letters that showed up on there that might make any sense?
I don't think so.
No word scrambles? Sorry, I'm pretty quick with the word scrambles. That's why I love that device. We can get those word scrambles. Any words show up on your word list before we kind of spread out a little bit?
I'm sorry, no.
Okay. I'm going to get a fresh set of eyes on it in the morning, and we'll see what comes up out of it. So, again, there's going to be other tours passing through. Just kind of stay out of their way, stay out of the way of vehicles. I'm going to be over there by that wall. Come see me in 5 minutes, because, again, based on what you guys tell me, I told you it's a hit or miss. We're either going to know that we're going to continue going, or we're going to wrap it up. So, again, this is a long story, which is very piratey and that kind of thing, but that's the fun part of this location. Let's see what we get. Did you hear anything, by the way? You're staring at me like you got something.
Yeah.
All right, let's spread out. Have some fun.
All right.
Your camera likes to act up in this location, by the way.
Okay.
So twice in this space, It was a small group, and usually when I only had like 2 people, I used that camera and one of the red spirit boxes. So the person using that was filming me, and the other person using the red spirit box. There was a white film that went over that person, like almost like staticky lines, just them,
Okay.
and their device stopped working. And that happened twice, like within the same month. Very odd occurrence. I've never seen it since. It was probably about a year ago, but it was very weird.
All right, noted. I'll leave her running.
Yeah, keep her going. Now, let me take a look at your letter there, buddy. Yeah, that does look like a prescription, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Words we can't pronounce.
That was perfect. Did you get anything, Kath?
No.
Sounds like there's a lot of fun going on right here.
What you're supposed to do, Jeff?
Just shows
Just heat.
temperature differences. Temperature differences.
Hot
I
pants.
haven't seen anything. All right, Nick, let's wrap this up. Smells good.
Oh.